here at eFolder and your host for today's event. Welcome to the eFolder Expert Series. This webinar series brings together experts from eFolder staff and partner community for deep dive discussions on key service and technical topics. Today's topic, eFolder BDR for ShadowProtect tutorial, recovering a production environment after a virtual failover. Today we are joined by Dave Stufflebeam, Senior Solutions Engineer at eFolder. In just a moment, I will further introduce Dave. Before we go through the agenda, let's cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar will be made available on eFolder's YouTube channel. We will also make copies of the slides available to those who registered for the event. With over 200 people registered for today's session, we have put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it on your computer or by dialing in over the phone. Questions are strongly encouraged throughout. We have planned a special Q&A section at the end of today's discussion, but you may submit as we go along, and we will try to address your questions on the fly. Today's presentation follows a logical flow from identifying client needs to a brief overview of the solution, leading into an eFolder BDR for ShadowProtect demo for how to recover and minimize downtime after a virtual failover, ending with additional resources and Q&A. Now, let me introduce Dave. Dave Stufflebeam is Senior Solutions Engineer at eFolder. He brings over 20 years of technical experience to the channel team and is involved in technical consulting and partner support for the entire range of eFolder solutions. Working for companies like Macromedia, now Adobe, Corel, Novell, and StorageCraft prior to coming to eFolder, he has gained extensive and diverse technical knowledge with vast experience in cloud technologies. Dave has presented to and performed technical trainings at companies like Walt Disney World, Pfizer, Procter & Gamble, Boeing, Walmart, and many more. Dave, thanks for joining us and welcome.
Thanks.
Before we jump into the tutorial, I'd like to present some of the challenges that today's clients are facing. First, there's legacy tape backup systems, which are stable solutions, but are prone to various hassles and human errors. And we all know that there are a lot of clients who are still depending on this outdated and rudimentary form of backup. Tape rotation and offset removal of tapes leads to potential privacy issues and extra operational costs. But more importantly, the key issue with tape backup is that the recovery time objective is too high for most organizations. The second challenge that clients face today is that uptime and resiliency is key in today's 24/7 economy. Simply put, downtime is not an option. So organizations, big and small, need the confidence that critical systems such as email and Exchange servers, databases, SharePoint, and internal portals can be recovered in minutes, not hours or days. Third, even though they are rare, on-site disasters do happen. Tornadoes, fires, and floods can destroy mission-critical data and systems. Clients need to plan for all eventualities, even the rare site-wide disaster. Lastly, cloud-based solutions are on everyone's minds since they unleash the potential for complete data protection and reliable business continuity, even at prices that small businesses can afford. Organizations today have to defend against three kinds of business interruptions. The first is everyday disasters, which are incredibly common. Hardware failures, disk drive failures, corrupted software installs, human error, all of these are examples of everyday disasters that, as IT providers, partners come across every day. Natural disasters or site-wide disasters is the second form of disasters that clients have to protect against. Even though they're far less common, especially in some parts of the country, such as the Gulf Coast or Tornado Alley, the likelihood of a site-wide disaster is even higher. most businesses cannot survive the complete loss of their critical business data. But really, businesses today in this competitive market need to guard against any kind of downtime. In today's market, the fast eat the slow. Businesses can't afford for their employees to be down, out of touch, or unproductive. If disasters do occur, recovery has to be not only fast, but also complete. So this is where eFolder BDR really fits in. eFolder BDR is a complete solution that's designed specifically for MSP solution providers and VARs. eFolder BDR is a service that combines intelligent software for image-based bare metal backups, online backups to the cloud, an on-site appliance for near instant virtualization of backup servers, and emergency in the cloud virtualization for worst-case scenarios. eFolder BDR delivers a complete business continuity solution by not only protecting client data, but guaranteeing uptime and resiliency for mission-critical servers and applications. So here's a diagram. On the screen now is a diagram that is an overview of the main functions of an eFolder BDR installation. First, the imaging software running on the production servers captures an initial image of the server along with incremental image backups and stores them on the eFolder BDR. The eFolder BDR appliance then acts both as a storage server and as a standby server in the event the production server fails. The eFolder BDR, leveraging virtualization technology, can bring up the image of the down server and operate just like a production server. Since both the data and the complete server configuration is backed up, this on-site recovery can happen in minutes, not hours or days. And to deliver additional protection, eFolder backs up the server images daily to the eFolder storage cloud, providing cloud-based protection from on-site disasters. The client or partner can then recover the server images from the cloud via download or shipment of a hard drive with the server images. Or the partner may also elect to recover the servers in the cloud with the eFolder Continuity Cloud. This approach provides the same benefits of an on-site virtualization, but instead leverages the cloud. So 2 months ago, we conducted a webinar that Dave was invited to, and Dave basically took us, if you can imagine this in 2 parts, took us through the first part. So your client server goes down, and what do you do? So the first part of that is you either recover on the BDR appliance, or in the event of a site-wide disaster, you would recover to the eFolder Continuity Cloud. And that was the topic of the webinar 2 months ago. Today, what Dave will be covering is, what do you do then? You have your client's data and critical applications running in the eFolder Continuity Cloud. How do you restore that and replicate that back to a production environment and get them back to where they were before the disaster happened? So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Dave. He's going to talk about the overview and the steps that are involved in getting your client's production environment back up and running, and then we're going to jump into the tutorial.
Great. Thanks, Carlo. Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to be here and to kind of finish the topic that we started talking about in January and kind of show the complete life cycle or tutorial around this. So some of the features that you can take advantage of when using ShadowProtect to fail over into the eFolder Continuity Cloud, and then getting that back. Now, also keep in mind that this does work for if you have to. Everything I'm going to show you now, if you have to fail over just to a BDR local, whether it's yours or ours, or you have to virtualize locally because of a failed server, the steps I'm going to show you today will help you to minimize downtime and restore business continuity faster when you're failing back over to a production environment. So some of the steps, if you're local on a local BDR, are not needed, and it's much quicker. But I thought I would show the more complicated part of this, and that's when you have to get the data out of the Continuity Cloud node back to an on-premise storage, whether that be a BDR or USB storage or a NAS. I don't care. You still got to get it back. So we're going to show you some of that features, and then we'll show you how to use the manual Head Start Restore built within the ShadowProtect Recovery CD. Part of the problem is the time that it takes to get the data, whether you sneakernet it, whether you FedEx it, or whether you replicate it or download it. There's still going to be, like if you shut off the VM running in the Continuity Cloud, and it takes you 2 days to get the data, then it takes you a day and a half to put the data down, you've essentially lost another week of production. So what we're going to do is keep the infrastructure up and running in the Continuity Cloud while we are getting the data downloaded and then also back onto disk. Okay. Then we'll take a final snapshot in the cloud, download that, and apply it. Okay. And then finalize the local disk and reboot, and then boot that back up. So with that, Carlo, if you'll go ahead and make me the presenter, unless there's another slide I need to talk to, then I'll bring up my own set of slides and kind of show you the infrastructure that I've set up and how I have done this. And keep in mind, for those of you that are watching this, that there's probably 3 to 4 different ways that you can optimize or get your data out of the cloud back to on-premise. Like Carlos said just a minute ago, we can put it. Our support guys, data center guys, can put it on a USB drive and send it to you. You can take backups, and send them back to the eFolder cloud, and then restore them back from the backup manager, or replicate, send them across via FTP. There are a lot of options, okay? So just because I'm doing it this way doesn't mean that you have to. The reason I'm doing it this way is simply because my storage, or my storage requirements, what I had to send across was very small. So I was able to take advantage of the high bandwidth that I have coming out of the data center, coming into my home office here. Okay, so what we have now, I'll just show you very quickly. We do have, this is the eFolder Continuity Cloud running out of our Salt Lake City data center. And I do have a failed, virtual machine up and running. So I've got, ShadowProtect is still installed in the VM. I've set up a share back from my VirtualBox VM back to the BDR, or back to the Continuity Cloud node. Okay. So before we get too far into that, let's go take a look and see what I've done here, and kind of show the flow. I kind of talked a little bit at highlight, but we're going to talk about the circle of life recovering from the cloud or / BDR. Okay. So as Carla talked about just a minute ago, we got in my example, I have a single server backing up to an eFolder BDR. Now you could have 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 servers, doesn't matter. I just simplified it for one box backing up to a BDR. Then the BDR is going to take that ShadowProtect data using our backup for files technology, our backup manager software. That's the gateway to get the data into the eFolder cloud. Okay, everything's fine and dandy. You could run like this for the entire life of the contract with your customer and never have a failure. But in that chance, that Carla was talking about, fire, flood, damage, site-wide failure, holy heck, everything hits the fan. Now you lose the local site, even if it's just simple power outage for like 3 weeks. Superstorm Sandy, a lot of buildings were fine, but they were out of power for 3 weeks, as down power lines and transformers were being restored. So you order a Continuity Cloud node through our support. Our support will provision you a physical box. This is a physical, beefy BDR type appliance in our data center. And it happens to be that it will be in the same data center that your data is at. Okay, we have an Atlanta and a Salt Lake. We have Continuity Cloud nodes in both. Okay, so you then will download across the data center's backbone the ShadowProtect data to the Continuity Cloud node. And I'm going to show you. We showed you how to do that last time in the video if you attended. If not, the video is out there, and I'll bring it up here in just a second. Once now that we have the data on the Continuity Cloud node, what we're going to do here is now do a virtual boot, a simple virtual boot, get the VM up and running. So we have our ShadowProtect chain. It's really just our ShadowProtect data on here. This is the same machine. It's just now virtualized. So ShadowProtect is still installed. I can still back this up to the Continuity Cloud node. In fact, exactly from where I left off, or even it'll do a differential and continue the same exact backup chain. If I have enough room on the Continuity Cloud node, I could even start a new base image in the cloud if I wanted to segregate it out. It all depends on your infrastructure, how much space, how much data that you have. We have a medium node and a large node on the Continuity Cloud node, our Continuity Cloud. Our large is a 3 terabyte system, or excuse me, our medium is a 3 terabyte system, and our large is a 10 terabyte system. So depending on how much space you're actually already utilizing will determine whether you continue the chain or whether you take a new base too. It's really no different. But in this example, I actually went ahead and continued the exact same chain, and it did a differential with ShadowProtect. And then on that differential, it started, after doing the differential, it continued doing incrementals. Okay? So I'm just backing up through a shared folder back from the VM to the Continuity Cloud node. After that, now the challenge is getting the data down. So what I did is I set up a replication job using our backup manager software. The same technology that I use to get the data into the cloud is installed on the Continuity Cloud node. So I created an account in the web portal to replicate the data back to the BDR. Now the BDR has a piece of software that's also already built in, and if not, once you install if you don't have our BDR, you could still install this. It's called a local backup server. I'll show you that in just a minute. It can receive incoming connections from the backup manager in the Continuity Cloud node. So I just opened up a port on my firewall, and lo and behold, now I'm actually replicating my data directly back from the Continuity Cloud node to my BDR, okay, if power is restored. I could have set up an FTP server. I could have set up an FTP server here and actually downloaded the data from the Continuity Cloud node, or vice versa, uploaded the data if I had an FTP server. There's 5, 6, 10 different ways you could get the data back. Even if I FedExed it, I could still get the data, the remaining data back, and we're going to continue with this. Then once I have this data back, we're going to do the manual head start restore. So part of the problem is it may take, if I have 100, 200 gigs, 500 gigs, and I got a really sick pipe, and I can download this really fast, I might take a day to 2 days to download that here, or if we FedEx it to you, overnight it, 2 days, what have you, I want to keep this up and running. So ShadowProtect is going to, the server's still going to run, ShadowProtect is still going to back up, and then I'm going to get the data down. Well, if it's, say it's a terabyte worth of data, and if you've ever done a ShadowProtect bare metal recovery, a terabyte of data, especially if you're going across a local area network, even at gigabit, can take 10 to 18 hours, right? So that's still a time factor that you need to prepare for when going back and doing a bare metal recovery. That's if you're doing physical or virtual, right? It doesn't matter. It's still going to take time to lay the data down. So there is a feature called Manual Head Start Restore, and I'll show you that as well. Okay, so again, I've kind of already talked about what I was going to do on this side. I'm just going to leave this slide here in case I need to come back to it for drawing purposes to explain what's happening. All right, so here we have, this is the virtual machine that's up and running. I've got ShadowProtect up and running. I actually went in and set up the destination job, created a new destination, and created a share with VirtualBox. So all I did was create a shared folder inside VirtualBox back to the X drive, the same exact location from where ShadowProtect is running out of an image. I'm just backing up to that same exact location so that my chain is intact. And you can see here that I'm on actual incremental 516. If I take a look at my local BDR, you can see that it's probably up to something similar as well, about that high. So ShadowProtect again is backing up. Here's the share going back here. All right, which direction do I want it to go? So here are some of the final ones. Let me hit refresh here, F5, and you can see that the last incremental is actually 517 that has been taken. If I come out to the BDR itself, now we're outside of the restored virtual boot here. And again, the X volume images, X, the Epic Dental server, you can see that here is the 517. Now, what we need to do is set up a replication job. The first step of the replication job, the way that I did it, again, that doesn't make that this is right, but it worked. It was pretty cool. So this is the BDR that is actually local to my home office here. So it's running on my local network. And when you install the Backup Manager software, you get something called the local backup server. And the local backup server allows you to put in an account. You have to go create an account in the web portal and put those credentials in here. Actually, sorry, let me back up. The same, because I'm on the BDR, the same account that I'm using to upload the data to the Continuity Cloud is the same account that I can use to receive data on this box. So don't get confused here. We are doing a round robin. So I am sending data to the eFolder cloud using the Backup Manager. Now I'm going to receive data onto the BDR from the Continuity Cloud node. So in configuring this, I choose where I want to restore the data, and I just chose the xDrive local backup repository folder. Okay. There is a port when you do this. Port 5470 needs to be opened on your firewall, and then you just need to do a port forward from your firewall to the BDR or to the machine that is running the local backup server. Okay. So you can see here on the server status accounts, I have an epicdental.cnn. The last backup was today around noon my time. I'm actually in Mountain Time Zone. So we can come here to the Continuity Cloud node, and we can see here on the Continuity Cloud node that epicdental.ccn is the account that I created. And I also have my remote server, which is the eFolder cloud. I have the backups going to there turned off, but this is the second step, is now configuring the replication job. I have www.stufflebeam.name, that's my personal domain name, out there on a dynamic DNS, so it was simple for me to use that. It automatically forwards to port 5470, so I don't have to put that here. Now what we're going to do is actually go, so this is where I want to set this up. So keep in mind, everybody, that you could do this yourself. We have something called a multi-tenant network server service plan that if you wanted to receive just regular old file and folder backup, ShadowProtect replication back to your data center, this is exactly the same steps that you would set up to do that too. So this is kind of a two-for-one tutorial. I'm showing you how you would set up receiving backups just from your customers as well as ShadowProtect replication from the Continuity Cloud node. So I did set up the Epic file, or the Epic Dental file server, going to the local server. So remember, we have 3 spots that we can send the data: the remote, the local, and the local disk. Local server, I mean. Obviously, this isn't local because I'm downloading it from the Salt Lake City Data Center to my home office here. But what I did to do this, and I'll just show you quickly, I'm going to go to Add Replicated Folder. Now, you don't get the Add Replicated Folder option unless you set up a local server or local disk option here.
Dave?
Yes?
Oh, we have one question. Sorry to interject here, but
no, please go ahead.
We have one question from Mark, who's asking, can the port number be customized for replication?
Yes. Yeah. On the configuration of this, I can choose the port I would like to use.
Okay, great.
That was a great question, and I should have specified that. Thanks, Mark. That was a great question. Okay. Now, where was I? Okay, so yeah, you don't get that option to add the local server unless you put another destination in here. Keep in mind this could be a UNC path as well if you're replicating from machine to machine or local storage as well. Okay, so I went in, added replicated folder, and it gives you a warning saying replication is different than backup. And in this case, that's okay. We know that. And just for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to go choose the same Epic Dental file server here. I'm not going to give it a folder name. I'm just going to skip that step. Click OK. Now it's asking me the folder properties. What is it that I want to do? Well, I can choose just to replicate the ShadowProtect daily images. Well, in this case, in this example, because I'm running such a short term in the cloud, I'm planning on not running Image Manager in the cloud. Okay, if I had been, I might replicate just the dailies back. So what I want to do is actually do a ShadowProtect real-time replication, which means it's going to pick up the actual incremental files, the hourly files, and send that across the wire. This is going to give us a policy that you can edit. And in fact, I actually had to edit the policy to get the right data down. And let me show you that. I'm going to right mouse click, go down to Properties, and I'll just choose all backup destinations. Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, it's Properties. We'll just do Local Server. Oh, Edit Version Settings. It was there. I just needed to click the button. So when I originally did this, it was excluding collapsed dailies, weeklies, and monthlies because it was just planning on sending just the incrementals. Well, because I failed over from local, I had a bunch of collapsed dailies and monthlies in there that I needed to get back. So I had to take that out of the policy to get my collapsed dailies and monthlies coming back so I had a full chain back there. Again, this is one way to do it. Doesn't mean it's the right way, but it works, so it's not the wrong way. Okay. So we got the replication going back. Now that we've got the data coming here, let me go back to my BDR, my local BDR. Let's go take a look at the Epic Dental file server that's coming back. So again, I went to the local repository, and then it creates a generic folder and then an account folder. And here's the data that's replicating back. If we look at the replicated data, and let's just reorganize this. Actually, let's just scroll down to the bottom here. You can see already I haven't done anything. This is all automated. Last night when I was setting up the system for the presentation today, the latest incremental I had was the 512. I have done nothing. I haven't done any manual backups or anything to interject to get the rest of these incrementals coming down. Because the backup manager software, I set up a schedule to start at 12 a.m. to run every hour on the hour, that it is going to just pick up anything that hasn't been replicated and bring it on down for me. Okay, so excuse me. That's how it's automatically coming down. Now to kick off the backup, I could manually come in. If I wanted to manually start the replication rather than waiting for the top of the hour, I can hit the Backup Now button, and it's going to come on down and start the replication. Now, you see a bunch of red X's here, and that looks really bad and really ugly. But note to no avail, there's actually nothing wrong. What it's telling me is it did not find a recent Image Manager log file within 3 days. What's happening here is the Backup Manager software is actually picking up that I have collapsed daily files and collapsed monthlies. So it's integrated. It's actually, you can look at the integration with the Backup Manager. If you go under Options and under the Backup, that we actually are looking for Image Manager and the SB Run and ShadowProtect and everything to monitor those logs and catch problems, so we can upload those problems to the web portal. And that's how we can, then you can use like ConnectWise integration to get that to open tickets and stuff. So we're monitoring that stuff, and because I don't have that log file, because I'm not running Image Manager in the cloud, which I could do if I wanted to, that's why that looks so ugly on the reports here. Okay, let's pop back over to my local. I know I'm going back and forth, and I apologize, but hopefully the flow is, you're sticking with me here. Let's bring up the actual machine. So I'm actually, again, I'm backing up the data to my on-premise BDR, and let me bring up the actual virtual machine. I have to do this with a VM because it's really hard to do this with a physical and then do the VNC connection. So I'm going to lay this back down to a virtual machine. What I've done is I've mapped a network drive inside of the ShadowProtect recovery CD. Now, for those of you that have been using ShadowProtect long term, some recent changes to Microsoft's policies came out last year where they no longer allow companies to distribute the Windows PE environment. And you have to do a build out now of the Windows recovery CD. Now, some of the features, the last time I checked, and I meant to check before this presentation, StorageCraft released a Linux version of the recovery CD and the build out your own recovery CD. So you build out a Windows PE recovery CD. By and large, I recommend you always use the Windows-based recovery, the Windows PE. Even if you have to build it out and download some stuff, it's worth it, simply because the last time I checked the Linux version of the recovery CD, it didn't have the capability of doing a manual Head Start restore, plus some of the other built-in tools that are really useful, like the boot configuration utility that will go in and look at your boot partitions and make sure they're bootable, and if not, fix them. And for the older, rewrite the boot INI and whatever you need to do. Some of these tools are not in the Linux. I don't know if they are now, but it's guaranteed to be there in the Windows. So I recommend build out the Windows recovery CD, throw that ISO on your thumb drive, in your Anchor Sync folder, wherever, so you can get app to it, download it, burn it, whatever you need to do, boot off of it, okay? So in the meantime, what I've done is I've booted directly off of the Windows-based ShadowProtect recovery CD, and I did a restore volume. I'm just going to go through the steps to show you what I did, because I'm still running in the cloud. I'm still getting backups, but I've actually already gone in. Sorry, the mouse is a little slow through the console here. I've actually gone in and restored up to incremental 512. Okay, and how I did that is I went to just the restore volume wizard, and you have 4 options here, and these are the options that, from my knowledge, are not in the Linux version, and at least the older one, I know it's not. But I can resume an aborted. I could just do a standard restore subsequent incrementals, which we're going to do in just a moment, or finalize an HSR, a Head Start restore. Okay, so for the first round, I just went ahead and told it to do a restore, and I browse out to, because I've already mapped out to my my replicated data on my BDR. I created a map drive for that. And then I just went down, and my latest incremental was 512, so that's what I selected. None of these were created yet. Click Open. It's going to ask me for the encrypted password, because I encrypted this with ShadowProtect. Okay, and click Next. Now, one of the final options you'll see here, and it's showing the dependency chain. I'm not going to lay this down here. We're going to tell it to lay down to the C drive. Now, this next step here, oh, darn it. Okay, so we'll cancel. On the next step, before we lay the data down, there's an option where it's going to ask you, do you want to finalize the disk? And in this step, because we still have data to download from the Continuity Cloud node, we do not want to finalize the last step, okay, or finalize the last disk. Because let's say this is a terabyte worth of data, it's going to take 18 hours to get down on. That's 18 hours that I'm now down in the Continuity Cloud, or days if I've already shipped it. So our goal is to minimize the downtime. So let's go do that. Let's pop back out to the Continuity Cloud node,
Dave,
and we'll leave that up. Let me come
Dave,
here.
We have a question coming in from Clyde, and he's asking, what is the difference between restore and finalize HDR restore?
So, just a sec, let me get my window back here. On these options, all right, mouse, where you at? There we go. So, Clyde, I assume that you're asking about these. If I was doing just a regular bare metal recovery, and I don't plan on resuming any kind of subsequent incrementals or anything else like that, I'm just going to do a bare metal recovery to same hardware, dissimilar hardware, physical, virtual, doesn't matter, just a regular BMR. I'm going to just choose the regular restore option, and then the screen that we didn't see where I check the checkbox where it says finalize the disk means that it's going to complete the restore and then run the head start or run the hardware independent restore and bring that box back up. In this case, because I'm going to come in and add incrementals later, I don't want to finalize that disk, okay? So because I haven't, and let me show you this, this will make sense. I have restored up to incremental 512 here. But you can see that this is at HSR stage completed. So I'm actually, I've actually laid the data down, but if I were to boot back the virtual machine and not boot into the recovery CD, there's no partition information for the operating system or for the machine to see. There's no boot sector, there's no master boot record, there's nothing, okay? It is not a proper disk at this point. Once we finalize, once we add the subsequent incrementals and we finalize this, excuse me, we finalize this, then it'll become a valid disk and the virtual machine will be able to boot off of that. So Clyde, that's a great question. Thanks for that. Okay, let's get back to where we were. Let me minimize this. So let's go back to the VM. We know that we have incremental 517, I think was the latest. Let me hit F5 to update this. Yeah, so 517 is the latest. Let's jump back up to ShadowProtect, and I'm going to tell it to just manually execute an incremental, okay? There's not going to be much change here, but we should get incremental 518 here. So it's trying the snapshot. We'll let this complete. Okay, so yep, we've got incremental 518. This is done. Now, what I want to do here is power off this virtual machine. I'm gonna do it a hard power off because I'm done with it at this point, but I could do a graceful shutdown or whatever, but I'm just going to tell it to power off the virtual machine as it is. So my virtual machine is gone. Now what I need to do is get 518 back to my local VDR, okay? So here it is. Now what we're going to do is kick off a manual backup on a local network backup, and it's scanning for changes. And we should see on the replicated server here, we should see 518 come in, hopefully. Let me hit F5. There, 518 just came in. Right there it is. All right, so machine is down in the cloud. We are now down. Let's go ahead and complete our manual head start restore. So we're going to restore volume. The mouse in this console is really choppy. I apologize. Restore subsequent incrementals to the C drive. Now we're going to browse out and go pick 518 that we just came down, Put in the encryption password for ShadowProtect. And click Next. Now it's going to look for the dependent files, and it sees up to 512 has been applied, so it's going to apply 13 through 18 here. Now, this was the screen that I was hoping to show you. Okay, I'm done. So I want to finalize the volume and actually make it a true partition at the end of this. This other option here, generate a .hsr file to be used in the future. Maybe I might add more incrementals to this later on, or I might not. So if you want to add to the point that you are right now, but you're not sure if you're going to add files later, then you can generate a .hsr file, and then if no more incrementals come in, you can come in and finalize with that. Okay. And not have to restore the whole thing. So we'll click Next. Now I'm going to set the partition active, restore the MBR, restore the hidden disk track, and I'm going to perform a hardware independent restore. We'll click Next, and now Finish. Okay. So this looks like the one let's see, I should have cleared out my tasks here before I did this. Let's see, 518. So it's 100% complete already. Here it is. It's running. It just finished the HIR. Okay. So that fast, it applied the last incrementals. We click close here. Now let's go back to the disk map. Let's look at the volume. No label. See, it actually is a valid partition. I'm just going to simply close out the ShadowProtect recovery environment, let the machine reboot here, and let's see if it boots back up. Start Windows normally. That's a really good sign. Okay, so had I not been talking and expounding on what it is that I'm doing and how I did it, this process would have taken mere minutes rather than like 5 minutes for me talking, but it would have been a lot quicker rather than me talking about it and explaining it. I hope this was helpful. So Carlo, I'm gonna, at this point, our machine is up. We're up and running. I could log in. I could validate it, make sure everything's working. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind, we've done a bare metal recovery back to dissimilar hardware, whether it's physical or virtual, it doesn't matter. At this point, before I start to send backups back up to the eFolder cloud, you are going to want to start a new base image. I know all of you are going to groan and you're going to grit your teeth, but it's recommended by ShadowProtect or StorageCraft support. It's recommended by our support that anytime you do a bare metal recovery back to disk, same hardware, dissimilar hardware, physical or virtual, doesn't matter. Anytime you do a BMR, you want to take a new base and reseed that back to the eFolder cloud. Okay, so that is status quo. That is best practice to make sure that your chain is fresh and new and golden at that point.
Dave, I think that is along the lines of Jay's question here. He's asking which incremental would I choose if there's more than one.
To choose for what? Like on the restore, or?
I'm assuming on the restore. He didn't specify, but.
Well, obviously you can see from my example here, just on the local BDR, I have several incrementals to choose from. I'm choosing based off the last incremental that I snapped in the cloud and then shut off the VM. I paid attention to the actual incremental number. I replicated it down, and then that was the one that I chose. If you wanted to, I mean, you could choose any one of these to do a restore, but my goal behind restoring back as quickly as possible, if this had been an Exchange database or Exchange server, and I had my MX records going to the eFolder continuity cloud, so my mail was coming in there, I want to, redirect my MX records coming back to my local, and then stop the VM, take a last incremental, shut it down, and then bring up my Exchange server locally as fast as possible. So you're going to pay attention to incremental number and the date and time, the timestamp of that. So I hope that answers your question, and not that you can reply back to Carlo if it does or not, or ask it in another way.
Yeah, I think it did. He wrote here in the question window that it answered his question. So.
Okay, perfect. So guys, I know that was fairly fast, fairly shotgun approach, and again, like I said before, there's many ways that you could do this, failing back from a virtual environment back to the eFolder or back to your on-premise infrastructure. Had this been just a failover to a virtual box on the BDR, it would be very easy to do that manual head start restore and very quick, because I don't have anything to download or get from the continuity cloud node. So this process works again for local failover to a BDR type device or failover into the continuity cloud itself and failing back to on-premise equipment. So Carlo, I would say if there's not anything else, I have nothing else here to add. So if you wanna sum up your slides, and then we can open it up for Q&A, let's go ahead and do that.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Dave. I'll switch over and make myself the presenter
Okay.
And you see my screen now?
Yes, now we do.
Perfect. So Dave has gone through the tutorial. I also want to tell the audience that there are additional resources available. The eFolder Partner Center is actually a branded web portal where you can find documentation, training videos, and all types of other resources that cover our different product lines and will help you get through and protect your clients. The second resource I want to put out there is that every Tuesday and Thursday, eFolder conducts training webinars. Those are actually coordinated by Dave and Rick Clementson, another member of our staff. And those happen every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 o'clock Pacific time, 12 o'clock Eastern, and 11 o'clock Pacific time, 2 o'clock Eastern. The first covers the web portal, where you're going to find all those resources, and they'll teach you how to navigate through that and all the resources that are at your disposal. And then the second one is the backup manager, so actually covering one of our solutions. And if you're interested in attending those webinars, we advise you to contact training@efolder.net. Also, I want to make sure that our audience knows that eFolder has ongoing offers at this time. So if you have a legacy BDR appliance, you have two different options really with eFolder two different options, two different cost-effective options to get rid of those legacy BDRs, or at least make the transition into newer products, more reliable products, and really protect your clients in a way that adds value. So the first is the eFolder BDR upgrade program. eFolder, if you upgrade an existing competitive BDR, eFolder will give you a $1,000 credit towards the purchase of the new eFolder BDR. All you have to do is buy the new eFolder BDR, and you'll get $1,000 off, and ship us the old unit, and we'll recycle it for you. And this, the $1,000 can actually be applied to both eFolder BDR for ShadowProtect or our eFolder BDR for Aperture lines. The second option is it's more of an economical interim plan. So if you're not ready to do the actual hardware refresh, not ready to upgrade the BDR, we also have an eFolder BDR rescue program. So it's available for BDRs from any other vendor that's powered by StorageCraft ShadowProtect. So this includes Zenith, Infotech BDRs, or Data Veridian BDRs, and you can move your data, your client's data, into the eFolder storage cloud, and that's actually at a reduced cost. So if you're interested in those, please feel free to visit our website and fill out a form, and somebody will get in contact with you immediately. So with that, I'd like to jump into, with the remaining 10 minutes, if we can jump into any questions that the audience has. I know that we answered some during the presentation, so let me get the questions up here. So it looks like we have a question from Victor, and he's asking, Dave mentioned daily versus real-time replication. If the real-time is hourly, then that's a long time. Can we change the granularity of the changes? So I think what Victor's asking is, can the real-time be less than an hour?
Yeah, the real-time, I just set it up because I was, in the example I was doing, ShadowProtect is not backing up more than once an hour. So while I'm waiting for the data to be down to the disk or whatever, any new files that are being generated are automatically just going to replicate along the way. So, so it was just an arbitrary number that I threw in there. So yeah, you could do it every 30 minutes, but the idea behind it is I'm not really worried about the replication coming from the Continuity Cloud node until I actually get the bulk of the data, if I'm downloading it or replicating it, getting it all down. and then I'm going to start that manual head start restore, if that's taking an hour to 2 hours or 5 hours, then at that point it really doesn't matter. Any of the new incrementals that are coming in are just coming in very quickly because they're just, depending on how much data is changing in the cloud, they're anywhere from a few meg to 10, 15 meg, or depending on how active the disk changes are, will determine on that. So at the end of it all, you want to take your final snapshot and then do a manual, kick off a manual to get the last ones down. So Victor, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, you can shorten that, but in this example, an hourly for me was sufficient.
Great. We have another question from Sheriff, and he's asking, looks like he might have missed some of the details, but where can we get the latest bootable disk that works on all servers?
You know what? That's a really good question, and I should have mentioned that. If you point your browser at storagecraft.com/ISO, it will redirect you to their downloads page, so shadowprotect.com/ISO. You will need a valid ShadowProtect serial number. It does not matter the version, okay? But any installed version of ShadowProtect, you can go to Help and Product Registration, copy the serial number out, or if you've been issued serial numbers by eFolder, those serial numbers will be available in your web portal under the account that they're in. You can right-mouse click on the account in the Account Center and go down to View License Keys, copy a license key, put it in the field. Then you have like 1.5 miles of page of agreements to agree to, like not going to give it to terrorists or weird people or something like that. You agree to it, and then it will give you 3 options to download. And you can download all 3. I just did this yesterday. You can download a 32-bit and 64-bit cross-platform CD recovery, and those are the 2 Linux recovery CDs. Then you have an option to download the recovery builder or the CD builder from there. It's just a couple of, it's not too big, but what that does is it's a program that installs that you run from your start menu, and it will, once you install it, it's going to look for some Microsoft tools, and it will prompt you where to download those and go get them. Pay attention to the instructions, because it says, if you download everything, it's going to be like 5, 6 gigs. You only need like 2 options, and it's like, instead of like 5 or 6 gigs, it's 3. And in those instructions in the builder, it will show you. And basically what you're downloading is the Windows 8 PE environment, kind of a Windows 8 PE builder. Once that's down and finished installing, you'll launch the program, the Recovery Builder program, and then it will walk you through step by step on how to build the Windows Recovery CD. I did it the first time. Never have touching these tools and got it right the first time. So, and there's I think a document, a walkthrough on that page as well on it. But I was able to follow it with no problem. So, good question.
Perfect. Well, I think on that note, we're going to conclude this webinar. I want to thank all of the attendees, as well as you, Dave, for coming on and giving the tutorial. I think it was incredibly informative for our audience. If you have any questions after the webinar, please visit www.efolder.net. And thank you again.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.